I married the love of my life on a bright Saturday morning in June, convinced I had won the lottery of happiness. As I stood at the altar, watching Daniel smile at me with tears in his eyes, I remember thinking that nothing in the world could ever shake what we had built. I was wrong. The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply it is buried. And when it does, it changes everything. Daniel and I met 3 years earlier at a friend's engagement party. I wasn't supposed to attend. I had a terrible week at work and wanted nothing more than to stay home, but my friend insisted. Daniel was standing by the window, nursing a drink, quiet and observant. He wasn't the loudest or most charming man in the room, but when our eyes met, there was something familiar about him, as if I had known him in another life. We talked for hours that night. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words were thoughtful and careful. He told me he worked in logistics, had moved around a lot, and valued stability above all else. I found that endearing. After years of dating men who thrived on chaos, Daniel felt safe, predictable, solid. Our relationship grew quickly, but not recklessly. Daniel was attentive, affectionate, and deeply respectful. He never raised his voice, never dismissed my feelings, never made me doubt his commitment. My friends adored him. My parents approved of him almost instantly, which was rare. He remembered birthdays, called my mother just to check in, and helped my father with small repairs without being asked. There were small things I noticed but brushed aside. Daniel rarely spoke about his past. When conversations drifted toward childhood memories or old friendships, he would redirect them gently. I assumed he was private, or maybe had a difficult upbringing. Many people do. I told myself not everyone carries their history on their sleeve. When he proposed, it felt inevitable. He knelt in our living room, nervous and sincere, holding a simple ring. He said I made him believe in second chances and new beginnings. That phrase stuck with me, but I didn't question it. I said yes without hesitation. The wedding was beautiful, the kind of day people talk about for years. Laughter, dancing, heartfelt speeches. Daniel's side of the guest list was noticeably smaller than mine, but he explained that he had lost touch with many people over the years due to moving. Again, it made sense. I didn't press. Our first year of marriage was peaceful. We built routines, cooked together, planned trips we never seemed to take because life got in the way. Daniel was a devoted husband. He left me notes before work, kissed my forehead every night, and held my hand when we slept. Then, one evening, everything shifted. I was searching for a document on Daniel's laptop. Mine had crashed and he told me to use his. I wasn't snooping, at least that's what I told myself later. As I typed a keyword into the search bar, a folder popped up with a name I didn't recognize. It wasn't password protected, which made me think it wasn't meant to be hidden. Inside were scanned documents, old emails, and newspaper clippings saved as PDFs. One headline caught my eye immediately. The date was over a decade old. Local man sentenced in high-profile fraud case. The photo beneath the headline made my stomach drop. It was Daniel. Younger, thinner, but unmistakably him. I felt cold all over. My hands shook as I opened the file. The article detailed a complex financial fraud scheme involving multiple victims who had lost their life savings. Daniel's name was listed as one of the key figures. He had been sentenced to several years in prison. I read more and more. Court records, appeals, letters of apology addressed to people I had never heard of. A criminal past my husband had never mentioned? Not once? When Daniel came home that night, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the laptop open. He knew immediately. His face drained of color, and he didn't ask what I had found. He just sat down across from me and closed his eyes. I asked him why. At first, he couldn't speak. When he finally did, his voice was barely above a whisper. He told me everything. Or at least what he claimed was everything. In his early 20s, Daniel was involved in a business venture that spiraled out of control. He insisted it started as a legitimate operation, but turned fraudulent under pressure and poor decisions. He said he was young, greedy, desperate to prove himself. He took responsibility for his actions and served his sentence. When he was released, he changed his name slightly, moved cities, and rebuilt his life from scratch. He said he didn't tell me because he was afraid I would see him only as the worst thing he had ever done, afraid of losing me, afraid that his past would poison the future he was trying so hard to create. I listened in silence, torn between anger, betrayal, and a strange sense of pity. This man, the one who held me when I cried, who vowed to protect me, had lived an entire life I knew nothing about. I asked him if there was anything else. He swore there wasn't. He said he had paid restitution, cut ties with everyone from that period of his life, and committed himself to living honestly. He said meeting me had given him something worth protecting. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. For weeks after that conversation, our home felt different, quieter. He tried to be the same Daniel he had always been, but I could feel the weight of the secret between us. I found myself questioning everything, every story he had told, every gap in his timeline, every unexplained reaction. I started researching on my own. I read old court transcripts and victim statements. Some described Daniel as charming and convincing, a man who knew exactly what to say to earn trust. That sentence haunted me. One night, unable to sleep, I searched his name again, this time including the city we lived in now. A forum thread appeared. Buried deep, barely active. Someone mentioned a man matching Daniel's description involved in a recent investment scandal. The details were vague, but my heart began to race. I confronted him again. He denied it immediately. He said people with similar names get confused all the time. He said I was letting fear consume me. He looked hurt. Genuinely hurt, and accused me of not trusting him. I wanted to trust him, but trust, once cracked, doesn't break cleanly. It splinters. I reached out to one of the victims from the old case. I found her email address through a public document and hesitated for days before sending a message. When she replied, my chest tightened. She told me Daniel had been brilliant at appearing remorseful, that he had apologized convincingly, promised change, and then disappeared. She said she hoped he truly had changed, but warned me to be careful. Some people, she said, don't abandon patterns, they just refine them. That night, I looked at my husband sleeping beside me and felt like I was lying to a stranger. The final blow came unexpectedly. A letter arrived addressed to Daniel under his old name. I recognized it instantly. My hands shook as I opened it. It was a legal notice regarding an investigation into financial misconduct. Not a conviction, not yet, but enough to confirm my worst fear. When I showed him the letter, he didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised. He said it wasn't what it looked like, that he had been trying to help someone and things had gotten complicated, that he would fix it. Something inside me broke then. Not loudly, quietly, like a thread snapping. I realized that loving someone doesn't mean ignoring who they show you they are. It doesn't mean sacrificing your sense of safety for the sake of hope. I asked him to leave. Daniel cried. He begged. He reminded me of our vows, of the life we planned, of the love we shared. And I believed that love was real. I still do. But love without honesty is a house built on sand. We separated shortly after. The investigation eventually led to charges. Watching the news report felt surreal, like witnessing a scene from someone else's life. Friends asked me how I could not have known. I asked myself the same question 1,000 times. The truth is, I saw what I wanted to see. I fell in love with the man Daniel was trying to be, not the man he still struggled to stop being. Walking away was the hardest thing I have ever done. Some nights, I still miss him. I miss the version of us that felt safe and hopeful, But I no longer miss the uncertainty, the constant doubt, the feeling that the ground beneath my feet could collapse at any moment. I learned that love doesn't erase the past. It doesn't cure deeply rooted behaviors, and it certainly doesn't obligate you to stay when the truth threatens your future. I married the love of my life. Then I found his dark past, and in the end, I had to choose myself. This story leaves one powerful question. Can love survive without honesty? Subscribe to Life's Secret Stories for more true stories that challenge the heart and mind, and share your thoughts in the comments.